There comes a moment in a person's life when the noise no longer pulls them, when chaos loses its authority, and when reaction is slowly replaced by command. If you are feeling detached from what once controlled you, if your silence feels heavier than your words, and if your discipline is becoming visible even when you say nothing, this is not accidental. This is a signal that you are operating on a higher level than most people ever reach. What follows are 4 signs that quietly reveal this shift, not through ego, not through status, but through inner mastery, the kind that ancient thinkers considered the highest form of power. Sign 1. You've mastered your inner reactions before trying to control the world. There is a quiet moment that separates those operating on a higher level from everyone else. It happens before the reaction, before the defense, before the explanation. If you recognize that pause inside yourself, then we already know something important. You are no longer ruled by impulse, you are ruled by judgment. Most people live outwardly. They react first and think later. Praise inflates them, insults shatter them, chaos outside becomes chaos within. But when someone begins to operate on a higher level, the first battlefield they conquer is invisible. It is the space between stimulus and response. And once we claim that space, the world loses its power to shake us. This is not emotional numbness. It is emotional command. Epictetus warned that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. That insight alone separates the disciplined from the enslaved. When we stop blaming events and start examining interpretations, something radical happens. Peace becomes portable. It no longer depends on people behaving well or life unfolding fairly. We begin to notice that insults no longer hook us the way they used to. Provocation feels predictable, almost boring. Where others feel the urge to correct, defend, or dominate, we feel the strength to remain unmoved. And paradoxically, this restraint is what gives us presence. Silence becomes heavier than noise. Stillness becomes authority. Marcus Aurelius wrote that true power lies in having the strength to stand unshaken by what happens externally. This is not passive acceptance, it is active governance. We choose which thoughts deserve attention and which emotions deserve release. Everything else is denied entry. When you are operating on a higher level, you no longer rush to prove yourself. You understand that emotional reactivity is a form of dependence. If someone can trigger you, they control you. And control, to a disciplined mind, is unacceptable. So we slow down. We observe. We let moments pass without surrendering our inner order. This alone changes how people perceive us. Calm unsettles those who thrive on chaos. Composure intimidates those addicted to drama. And without trying, we begin to command respect. Modern Stoic scholars often note that emotional regulation is not suppression but refinement. We still feel, but we feel on our terms. Anger becomes information, not identity. Fear becomes a signal, not a master. Desire becomes deliberate, not desperate. Operating on a higher level means we have stopped outsourcing our emotional life. We no longer hand strangers the authority to ruin our mood or determine our worth. We have accepted full responsibility for our inner climate. And once that happens, everything else follows. Because the man who governs himself cannot be dominated. The man who chooses his response cannot be manipulated. And the man who remains calm in a reactive world has already risen above it. If this feels familiar, if you recognize yourself here, then understand this. You are not becoming disciplined, you already are. Sign 2. You no longer seek validation, you measure yourself by inner standards. At some point on the higher path, something quietly breaks inside us, not in a destructive way, but in a liberating one. The need to be seen, the hunger to be approved, the unconscious habit of adjusting ourselves to fit the expectations of others. When this dissolves, we step into a different psychological tier altogether. Most people live under invisible surveillance. Every decision is filtered through imagined judgment. How will this look? Will they respect me? Will I be admired or rejected? This creates a fragile existence because a life fueled by validation is a life powered by others. But when we begin operating on a higher level, the metric changes. We stop asking, do they approve? And start asking, did I act in alignment? Seneca warned that he who lives in harmony with himself lives in harmony with the universe. That harmony cannot exist if our worth is outsourced. True confidence does not require witnesses. It requires coherence between thought, intention, and action. This is where many misunderstand discipline. They think confidence is loud, visible, assertive. But Stoic thinkers and modern researchers influenced by them recognize that the most grounded individuals are internally anchored. Their behavior is guided by principles, not applause. When you reach this stage, you may notice a strange side effect. Fewer explanations, fewer justifications, fewer emotional negotiations. You stop oversharing your plans because you are no longer seeking permission to become who you are meant to be. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that it never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Operating on a higher level means reversing that contradiction, not through arrogance, but through clarity. We still listen, we still learn, but we are no longer shaped by every opinion that enters the room. This shift makes many uncomfortable. People sense when you are no longer fishing for approval. Some will test you, subtly withdrawing praise, offering doubt, or pushing emotional buttons. But nothing sticks because your compass no longer spins with every external force. Psychologically, this is where emotional independence is born. Research in self-determination theory aligns closely with this Stoic principle. Autonomy, acting from internal values rather than external pressure, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term fulfillment and resilience. And here is the paradox. When you stop seeking validation, you often receive more respect, not because you demand it, but because self-respect is contagious. You walk differently. You speak with less urgency. Your presence feels settled. People can sense when someone has stopped performing and started being. We don't reject others. We simply stop kneeling before them. Operating on a higher level means we have made a quiet agreement with ourselves. We will judge our days by integrity, not applause. We will measure success by self-mastery, not recognition, and we will not trade inner peace for external approval. That decision alone elevates everything, because when no one else needs to validate you, you are finally free to become formidable. Sign 3. You respond with control where others react with emotion. One of the clearest indicators that we are operating on a higher level is not what we do, but what we refuse to do. We stop reacting impulsively. We stop handing our inner state to every provocation that crosses our path. In a world addicted to emotional discharge, restraint becomes a rare form of power. Most people believe emotions happen to them. Anger rises, jealousy flares, offense takes root, and they obey it without question. This creates a life of constant turbulence because anything external can hijack the mind. A comment, a look, a moment of disrespect. Control is lost instantly, but higher-level individuals create space. They feel the emotion, but they do not become it. Epictetus drew a sharp line between stimulus and response when he wrote that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. This insight is not philosophical decoration, it is a psychological weapon. When we internalize it, we realize that nothing has authority over us unless we grant it permission. Operating on a higher level means we insert awareness where others insert reaction. This is not suppression. Suppression buries emotion until it erupts. Control, by contrast, observes emotion without obeying it. We notice the surge of anger, the pull of insecurity, the temptation to retaliate, and we pause. In that pause, we reclaim sovereignty. Modern neuroscience supports this ancient discipline. Studies on emotional regulation show that individuals who can delay reaction and cognitively reframe situations have stronger prefrontal cortex engagement, the very region associated with decision-making, impulse control, and long-term thinking. In simple terms, calm people think better under pressure. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before brain scans existed. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength is quiet. It does not announce itself, but it is unmistakable. When we reach this level, conflict loses its grip on us. Insults feel hollow. Chaos feels distant. Not because we are numb, but because we are selective with our energy. We no longer rush to defend the ego. This alone changes how others interact with us. People expect reaction. They expect emotional access. When they don't get it, they are forced to confront their own lack of control. Some feel threatened, others feel respect. But either way, the dynamic shifts. We become unpredictable, not in action, but in restraint. And this restraint compounds. Over time, our nervous system becomes calmer, our decisions become sharper, our presence becomes grounded. We stop saying things we regret. We stop acting from wounded pride. We stop escalating situations that never deserved our attention. This is the discipline of inner command. We are no longer dragged by emotion. We carry it. We no longer fight every battle. We choose the ones worth fighting. We no longer react to life, we respond to it. And in a reactive world, the one who can remain composed under pressure is always operating on a higher level. Sign 4. You are no longer driven by validation or approval. One of the final and most revealing signs that we are operating on a higher level is this. We stop needing the world to confirm our worth. Praise no longer intoxicates us. Criticism no longer destabilizes us. We begin to move from an internal axis rather than an external one. Most people unknowingly live as emotional beggars. They measure themselves through applause, likes, attention, agreement, and approval. When validation arrives, they feel alive. When it disappears, they feel empty. This creates a fragile identity, one that rises and falls with other people's moods and opinions. Higher-level individuals exit this trap. They understand that approval is unstable currency. It can be given today and withdrawn tomorrow. To build a life upon it is to build on sand. Seneca warned against this dependence when he wrote, "He who depends on himself alone is not disturbed by others." This is not isolation, it is self-groundedness. We still participate in the world, but we are no longer enslaved by its reactions. Operating on a higher level means our standards become internal. We ask different questions, not "do they like this?" but "is this aligned with who we are becoming?" Not "will this impress them?" but "is this honorable, disciplined, and true?" This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Psychologically, validation seeking keeps the nervous system in a constant state of alert. We are always scanning for signals, approval or rejection, never fully at rest. When we detach from this need, the mind becomes quieter. Focus deepens, self-respect replaces self-doubt. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I do my duty, other things trouble me not." That sentence alone defines higher-level operation, action guided by principle, not applause. As this mindset strengthens, we become harder to manipulate. Flattery loses its power, insults lose their sting, social pressure weakens. We are no longer pulled into roles that betray our nature just to be accepted. This doesn't make us cold, it makes us free. And paradoxically, this freedom often attracts respect. People sense when someone is not trying to impress them. There is a quiet gravity to a person who stands without leaning on approval. We stop explaining ourselves unnecessarily. We stop shrinking to fit expectations. We stop performing. What replaces validation seeking is something far more stable, inner alignment. We know what we stand for. We know what we tolerate. We know what we refuse to trade, even if it costs us admiration. And when we reach this point, we are no longer living on borrowed confidence. We are operating from earned self-command. That is not loud power. It is not visible power, but it is the kind of power that cannot be taken away. Get exclusive content and deeper insights. Join our membership today. Link in the description.